everybody can kind of remember what they were doing, whether they were in public safety, working in a hospital, or just an ordinary, citizen. It kind of goes back to that Alan Jackson song, "Where Were You When the World Stopped Turning," right?
I was in my third grade classroom on the third floor in Queens, New York. We can see the Manhattan skyline from there. So we all looked out the window and we heard that there was something going on in the city, and yeah, we saw all kinds of smoke.
First thing comes to mind is the Pentagon, because I'm from Arlington, and that was my immediate impact. And of course, the second is the Twin Towers in New York. My father responded to the Pentagon. He was a chief, and he was basically, I guess, what we would call a scene commander. I was in 8th grade, middle school, in Arlington, about a mile away from the Pentagon.
We were kids, we had no understanding, but we knew what the Twin Towers were, and we knew that something happened to them and something was very, very wrong. All of the teachers were very upset. There was just like the energy in the classroom was it was entirely unsettled.
We were watching the events on the news that was going on in New York, and we at first we thought that it was an airplane just erroneously hit the World Trade Center, but then when we saw the second one, we knew something was up. Once we saw the second one hit, we were really engaged. We knew what was going on, and then we got a call. And when we got a call, we went out and we came back, and then when we got back, we saw one of the towers collapse. The first tower collapsed, and I was the senior person in the room at the time, and folks didn't realize it, but I basically said, "Hey, we just saw about 200 firefighters die." They didn't realize that what they saw was firefighters were in that building. And then when I said that, we got hit out again, and we were on a medical call. And Mount Vernon is not too far from the city of Alexandria. When we were on that call, we heard a loud crash. And when we got back from that call, it was a medical call. We had realized that the Pentagon had got struck. And immediately after that, not immediately, about 10 to 15 minutes after that, we got dispatched for the Pentagon.
My experience that's around the 9/11 event, the best word I can use is surreal. And that's what I thought about when we first arrived as a group to the Pentagon. It was something like you've never, ever experienced in your life, and I have yet to experience something like that since that incident. The skies were quiet, and it was an eerie quiet. It was a beautiful day, but it was just quiet, which is interesting because it was also a lot going on. But the sense you got was just a quiet, and it wasn't a calm quiet. It was the quiet before the storm.
En route to the Pentagon, it was a real clear day. I remember telling my crew, our goal today is to not die. We're not going to die today. So when we got there, you could see the smoke when we were driving down. We came through. It was real eerie because it was like a Godzilla movie, because when we were coming through Alexandria and when we got to Crystal City, people had abandoned their cars, and it was a wave of people just running down Route 1, going south on Route 1, and we had to get police escorts just to drive through the people to get to the Pentagon. Once we got in there, we got our assignment, we went inside, and we were responsible for extinguishing the fire that was at the nose of the plane.
One of my most vivid memories is from when my partner and I had just arrived on scene. He was going to check in with the command post to get our assignment, and I was helping another medic unit from Alexandria treat a Virginia state trooper who had made entry into the Pentagon to rescue some victims, and when he came out, he was suffering from smoke inhalation. And then later on that morning, my partner and I hooked up with a Navy EMT who happened to work in the Pentagon, who was uninjured, and he offered his help, as a medical professional, to be with us for the remainder of the day, basically. And he stuck by our side until we were relieved by crews that day.
We were eventually dropped off at the Pentagon, just me and a bunch of co-workers. Don't even remember who was on the bus. but all we had was our turnout gear. I was assigned with a group to go inside and look for any survivors, any remaining survivors, or any fatalities, and also check for hot spots, any fires that were still burning.
So I guess my experience was a little bit different than everybody. I was off duty. My first daughter was born on September 2nd, and I had taken the month of September off. And that morning we heard on the radio that the first tower had been hit. So we turned the TV on to see what was going on. And then they were just talking about this big massive fire at the World Trade Center. So, and then we watched my wife and I watched the second plane go in. And I looked at her and said, "That's not an accident, and I'm going to have to go to work today." I mean, I never really thought of like an airplane as a weapon, but now, and I live close to Dulles Airport, and I can hear the air pattern changes, and even here in Alexandria, you know, Reagan National is known for a short runway. And then you can, probably about once every 4 or 5 days, you hear a plane that they had to pull up quick because they realized they weren't going to land it the way they needed to. And then you hear them pass overhead a different way than you normally do. And I still hear that, and I still pay attention to that. So it's kind of, that's one of the things that still, 20 years later, when you hear an airplane fly overhead, now you're okay. Well, is that a normal pattern that they're in, or where are they going? Because we got a lot of restricted airspace inside the Beltway, so you don't normally see big airplanes taking right through the city. They're coming along the river.
When you're talking about thousands of first responders losing their lives, thousands of civilians losing their lives, iconic buildings crumbling to the ground, and it's not a war situation. You woke up this morning and I'm going to work. For me, you can't foresee something like that. As a citizen, I don't think you can foresee waking up on Monday and this is your day. So as a firefighter, again, I wasn't so young at that time. I think it was like 35 or something when that happened. So an event like that really opens your eyes as to the dangers of my position. Normally, I don't think about, I'll leave home today, I might not come home. I don't think like that. It never even occurred to me. But that situation on 9/11 lets you know that is a possibility. You don't know.
I think one of the things to keep in mind is we now have a whole generation of folks that were not alive during 9/11. My daughter is 21. She doesn't really remember the events. She was, she had just, was a little over 1 year old when it happened. But there's a whole generation of folks that understand that something happened, but aren't really sure that a lot of us can share our experiences with. But this is kind of the same thing that's happened after, after World War I, World War II, Korea. Embrace those that have been involved in those types of incidents. Talk to them, learn from their experiences.